My question comes from a place of something that I've been facing since I was a child. I was a kind of a daydreamer, uh, reading a lot of books, and about almost all subjects possible as I grew. Initially, they were comics and Hardy Boys and those kind of detective novels, but it kind of graduated into everything and anything. I remember thinking about myself. We were going somewhere outstation, and I found some old book lying on the train shelf, those overnight trains, and
Oh.
I kind of like a champak kind of book. I don't even remember what it was. I picked it up and I was very happy that I'm sorted for the next uh, whatever, half an hour or 24 hours. I don't know. I don't remember too much, but I remember that feeling that I had. Wow, I'm sorted. Uh, what kept me going was this thirst for knowledge, which also, as I grew, it became this. Uh, it became this. I know better than others for a while, uh, or else in a room where people knew more than me. Then there's always this insight that I needed to know much more. Uh, Something or the other with knowledge kept happening, and over a period, now that I have a daughter who's growing up, I try and free her from these kind of concerns. But yeah, at the same time, the seeking has to be more curiosity induced rather than this search for tick marking things that I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this, and I can hold my own in a conversation anywhere, or feel guilty about being an idiot about any subject. But it was an important thing. I was very taken aback actually when you said uh, before the kindness part, you realize that the curiosity part is missing in your answer earlier. How have you figured this out? How have you figured this out? Because curiosity is not really given a lot of uh, weightage in a world which seeks knowledge, like solid knowledge, science, God, belief systems, whatever. Everybody needs to know everything and perfectly. There is not, the process is not given too much of importance most of the time. So how did you realize that when this was happening, that it was a curiosity issue also?
Yeah, I think it's like it's been almost like a double-edged sword, I feel. Like in the sense that I feel there's been so much the curiosity is somewhat fueled by almost the pain and the suffering. So I mean, that's what I've seen. Like, it's like because there is pain, there is suffering, there is disturbance, there's unpleasantness, that somehow I feel has driven the growth of curiosity. Because I mean, every time I see myself get sort of stagnant, I mean, it's been like, अच्छा, कुछ तो अभी मालूम नहीं है, मतलब कुछ तो, something is
missing.
Yes, there's something that's missing. There's something that is required to be seen or to be understood or to be explored or something. So it's like that's what I feel like. It's been this double-edged sword. But then I mean, I'm also wondering like if one can. I mean, one is also. I mean, then does it's like would curiosity always need to have the pain and the suffering, or is curiosity can also be there just as a how you step into how you step into your experience just with open curiosity. So
since you made such a loaded statement, it gives me an idea. I am also trying to think aloud, so I may be wrong.
Yeah, let's.
Okay, this is not a subject that I've seen with these eyes. I think I've heard the word seeking instead of curiosity in what you said. used, but curiosity as an independent term I haven't. But I would think they both spring from the same need to know through exploration rather than being sure of what you know.
Huh.
And I think
Yeah.
the linking may come from the fact that at least in the system that like the age group that we belong, the way of accumulating knowledge has always been scale se maar kha ke. It has been like hard work किया तो मिलेगा, पढ़ाई करेगा तो होगा, बुक पढ़ेगा तो जानेगा, ये करेगा. अभी चलो और थोड़े खुल गए हैं तो मूवी देखेगा तो मालूम पड़ जाएगा, ये कर जाएगा. But it is always, oh, you are going to gain if you have the process sorted, the medium of instruction sorted, and you then know. What you actually know is that you are just vomiting what you learned from somebody else. Actually. But we don't see it like that because pure world, I remember, I'll give you a very funny example. I was a failed engineer once and I was doing a job, data entry operator kada, and then suddenly I realized yaar writing karna hai bas. So my boss was quite angry. He was actually being very patient कि इतना गधा है इसको पाल रहा हूँ मैं, and आके बोल रहा है मुझे writer बनना है. So he used a word, audacity. He says you can't think in English or you can't write a single sentence of English and you have the audacity to think that you will be a writer. And I told him yes. I was quite obstinate and I just said no, I'm going, and I left. And then I was quite happy. Oh, audacity is used like this. I never knew. And that is when I realized कि तेरा कुछ नहीं हो सकता अभी थोड़ा loser life ही है because तेरे को नौकरी से निकाला है अभी. And in the lift you are thinking audacity क्या मस्त word है यार, क्या मस्त बोला बॉस ने. मस्त क्या बोला तू नौकरी से बाहर. So this happiness stayed with me. Luckily I found a good boss in advertising who taught me everything and who fueled my love for seeking and curiosity as much as he could. In fact, he pulled me up. Like one of the tests that he had was he would check my dictionary. So once or twice he asked, I refused. I said, no, I'm not showing it to you. He says, I want to see it. Otherwise you're losing your job. So then I showed it to him. It was in tatters. He says, good, go. That means you are using it. So that is the level of freedom I got, the level of backing I got. Okay, go ahead, live your life, be curious, do what you seem to want. Vis-a-vis this, what you just mentioned, that the pain and suffering, I think pain and suffering come from the fact that because you act, oh, I know. And when the bubble gets burst, no, the pain is that I wish I knew as much as I thought I did. Because half the time you are unaware that you didn't know. Like I read a bit or even live my life according to certain Buddhist way of thought. So ignorance is given a lot of weightage. I remember I was struggling with somebody and I was talking to a friend who was also a teacher in Vipassana, and she landed up saying, "Arey, but you were ignorant. Why are you making a fuss of it?" In a very normal way. And I said, "Arey, you're being kind." She said, "No, we are all being ignorant. That's the only thing that we are being." The first thing you have to accept that I am ignorant. I do not understand the subject. Only then will you be able to pursue the subject. Whatever the subject is, it could be yourself or it could be something else. And yeah, today I really understand. As I'm talking to you, I see the perspective she mentioned. That time I kept thinking she's such a dear friend, man. She stood by me and she's so kind. But what she mentioned is quite loaded. We are all indeed ignorant, and the pain comes from the fact that we refuse to accept. At least I would think I don't. I like to think that I know about this thing. Or, of course, there's a nice fluidity that comes. Sometimes you are in that, what is the term that they use? Flow. When you are in the flow. But sometimes you are like, yeah, man, it's okay. If in this conversation, Deepa comes across as smarter than I am, I shouldn't feel endangered. You're okay with it. Otherwise, you're trying to just score points with what you're saying. So it's not the truth, it's more the imagery has to be sacrosanct. बाकी सब बाद में देख लेंगे. Knowledge सब रखो. मेरा
Yeah.
image अच्छा रहना चाहिए. And it hurts. मतलब इसमें भी होता है. During this sometimes if I'm getting it, so I am trying to, because thankfully having a younger daughter, I try to see through her eyes how the world looks when I'm explaining things to her, or when I'm trying to look at the world. And I think it's very useful because it allows you to think, oh, okay, I didn't understand what you meant by shame. Otherwise, I'll be quiet and I'll assume things and I'll try and show, look, how I can ask you a very deep question.
Yeah.
So that keeps happening. So that is the space I wanted to talk about in terms of how perhaps that pain and this might be linked. One other question that I want to ask you. This kind of living brings a different kind of pain because you are not defining yourself so strongly. You're just defining yourself in your head as a seeker or as a person who wants to know something about the truth as it is, about myself, about my thoughts, about my body, about my physical, mental space, whatever, spiritual space, if you want to use that term. Now, there are already a lot of people, a lot of religions, a lot of ready-made answers which kind of satisfy the urge of most people.
Yeah.
Or rather, they make their peace very quickly with rehashed answers from somewhere. We are in this space because we have kind of rejected that answer from somewhere and saying, it doesn't seem to work in my new place anymore. So, for example, if you do whatever, I don't know, some chanting of some god's name or some process that you do, or you burn an oil lamp in front of Shiva or this god or that god, and they find their peace sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then they get into the self-blame. And over a period, I've realized that all of that doesn't work. Either you tell yourself a better story or else find out what is the truth. And stories don't seem to work because they have a shelf life. So for 2 times, I'll tell you, look, I did this. Like that idea, I used to get the idea when I went off to sleep. Morning, I had the idea. But it doesn't always work. At some point, you have to let go of that process also.
Yeah.
So in your life, how have you adopted the bravery of finding for yourself the truth? Because it takes a lot of courage to tell yourself, मेरे parents का answer सही नहीं है, या मेरे friends जो बोल रहे थे वो काम नहीं कर रहा, या मैंने जो पढ़ा था या लिखा था या सुना था doesn't work. अब मैं खुद का answer ढूंढूंगी. It's not easy at all. Half the time you are not even sure कि यहाँ से address पूछा, यहाँ से वहाँ जाने का, तो you are sure कि address ये है. ये तो unknown है पूरा.
Yeah.
So how did you find that bravery, that courage?
I mean, I'm like very touched because I also don't see myself like that. So it's very like, I'm just touched by how you saw.
You didn't give any
journey.
answers. There are no stock answers that you seem to give. See, stock answers are very good for me also. Okay? If you were to say, okay, my first question was, who are you? And you have not answered that yet. So now we are really talking loaded subjects.
Yeah.
So how did you get that courage?
I don't know. I feel like, I think it's sort of, I think seeing and experiencing a lot of sort of shattering reality stuff internally for myself. When just like I think what you said, when trust is broken, because you saw a person in a certain way and that trust gets broken, or you thought reality would happen in a certain way and it doesn't. So these sort of moments of shattering, I feel that happen and that keep happening. मतलब life में वो ऐसे भरे पड़े हैं जो होते रहते हैं. And I don't know, I feel like that that experience keeps it's like this tug of sort of pull and push with life and you. That's how I felt about it. Like when you kind of give up and you sort of, for me, I keep going very low. That's my movement. Or I keep disconnecting. That's the other movement for me when things get difficult or things get unpleasant. And then again, you start conversing with life or energy or however, I mean, you may say it, but for me that's how I say it, like with life. And it's like that conversation and that relationship, where you there are some days where you just let it be, but then again you want to reconnect. So I feel in that I feel like maybe um, courage is sort of gets programmed along the way in that conversation with life and that understanding with life and the connection and relationship with that. So somewhere I feel like
Yeah.
it gets um,
Fueled.
programmed, and yeah, it grows somehow.
Okay. One clarification. The series is called The Vulnerable Me. I no longer
Hmm.
name it because it automatically seems to go in that realm only because of the kind of
Hmm.
conversations we are having. Um, I want to talk a little about the low space because it doesn't get its due importance most of the time. We
Hmm.
like all the winners in the world. We like all their uh, success stories and their medals and their cars and their this. Even Olympic heroes and people from sports who
Hmm.
rarely talk about their dark days when they weren't picked up in the team or they just
Yeah.
brush it off. And those questions are never asked. Uh,
Yeah.
so when you have this period of low, I want you to mentally think of any time that you had. You don't need to describe what happened or why or what.
Hmm.
That's not of interest to me as of right now. Unless on a
Hmm.
personal level we decide to discuss it
Right.
post the chat. But
Yeah.
the low space when you're
Hmm.
there, uh, one, is it an escape from reality for you? I'm talking now.
Hmm.
You have to speak with both. You have to keep that position in mind, which was whenever it had happened earlier. How are
Hmm.
you looking at it? How do you look at it now in terms of, is it a space that you are sure it's all right? Uh, break
Hmm.
down here to break down. Osho had some terms. He used to play with the word break down and breakthrough. Something he used to play
Oh.
with that, and um, he was he was drama personified. So many things he said, but some of them
Hmm.
are quite loaded in terms of people on the journey can pick and find peace within themselves, at least some kind of signposts. uh, so how do you look at that low space? I want to know
Hmm.
the vulnerability part of it, and what is it that you tell yourself before the solution is arrived. The courage has arrived. I
Hmm.
understand that the courage needs that, uh, and I completely agree because it's the experience itself that makes us courageous. Because now you know that okay, if this
Hmm.
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. What I think, okay, I've gone
Hmm.
through this. अब क्या मतलब life loves this. अब क्या रुक.
Ah.
But
Hmm.
what do you do in that low space? Do nahi, मतलब what do you experience? What is the way you
Hmm.
deal with that low
Hmm.
space?
I mean, actually, for a very long time, it's like people would ask me, if like if I was sad or if I was stressed, and for me, I couldn't even say that I was, because I thought I wasn't. Matlab, I was so disconnected from my own reality that I didn't even know. So somewhere for me now, like the body has become like a sort of indicator
Yeah,
of where I'm at really. Like in my mind, anything could be going on. Like I'm very intellectually very, like there's a lot of,
peaceful.
yeah, like stuff that I can just keep going on and on and on. But in the body, there's a different story going on. So I feel like during these times, whenever there is like a phase of low, almost like I think grief that sort of passing through. um, I feel the connecting with the body has become like a I
Second
don't know
nature.
what.
Second
Yeah, like
nature.
a second nature. I don't know, but
Go to.
um, kind of like a go-to. Kind of like a go-to. Yeah, because I feel like that there's something in my body that's happening and that I'm disconnected from, and it's there's something that's being processed, and I find the body to be like a ground to understand and explore of what might be happening more than the mind, like what might be happening in the mind, so that reconnecting in some ways with the body in during that time um, has been, I mean, painful, but also there is some amount of like beauty I feel also there, like when I'm able to do that. So I think yeah, that's the on current sort of
Scenario.
processing, yeah, current scenario that's happening.
Uh,
Yeah.
one I
And if
would.
I may just add one more
Please,
thing,
please.
because I think you also brought up like vulnerability. I feel like if even in that low space, my pattern so far has been to isolate, because I don't. I This is the time when I am sort of more like I don't want others to see me in this space, or because of the shame. I keep it to myself. But of late, like I feel like um,
ये भी तोड़ना पड़ेगा.
in हाँ, थोड़ा जितना safety में possible to include others who might also want or be curious about me, or in that space when I'm not feeling so well or there is some disturbance. So I feel in the vulnerability aspect, like that's also the other sort of journey that I'm slowly beginning.
One thing I want to comment and understand if I understood that correctly. Um, so does it mean for people who will be watching and who go through similar spaces that being kind to one's own self physically in that sense, just by noticing it, or uh, or just being with yourself for a while is all right. It doesn't mean that you have to be on the gravy train all the time and be life is happening and hot, because that is another pressure that a lot of people go through because they think they always have
Yeah.
to seem happy. It's okay to just switch off for a while, recharge your batteries or reconnect with your body to figure out, okay, where is this thing. And the other thing that I wanted to know, uh, I remember I met a friend after a long time. We used to work together. Her laugh was infectious, always. So she had come, she wanted to do some research on Gurdwaras or something. And, it was a Sunday, and I said, yeah, come Sundays, there is langar, and you can see what happens, and you will meet a lot of people. You can make your own story, whatever you want to. And we sat down in a coffee shop, and I asked her, why are you so sad? She said, what tells you that I'm sad? I said, I remember only your laughter, because we have limited capacity. We remember whatever we want to. Also, if I remember this conversation, it will be hardly one little minuscule thing if I am going to remember it. So because that's how we retain, okay, Deepa means this. End of story, because that is easier for us to retain. So I said, this is what I retained about you, your laughter, and you don't seem to be laughing. So obviously there is something that is amiss. And she said, this is the first time somebody's told me you're sad, and now I realize I'm immensely sad. And then I had to tell her that coffee ke pehle roegi nahi na, coffee manga lete, then you can cry. So that kind of made her laugh and open up, and then she spoke. And बाद में पता नहीं, मतलब she's not been too much in touch, but she said she's kind of okay with it. At least she was one step further, because acknowledgement of the truth was important. I am too middle class for these kind of problems. When I'm sad, I just know कि साला लग गया, तो क्या करें, कुछ हो नहीं रहा. मतलब I was very clear about those. ये बहुत issue नहीं होता है कि I am sad and I don't know. Shayad, this is also touchwood now that I realize it's a good thing that at least you know where you stand. What I
Yeah,
want,
yeah.
what I want you to elaborate on. Uh, there are of late there are many schools of thought and lots of meditation techniques and hazar things happening which seem to be fixing our
Hmm.
problems. Uh, I am genuinely inspired by. I've been told that I ask good questions and I seem very interested and I listen very carefully. I don't have all these things in real life. It is only on camera that I'm able to do so, and I enjoy
Wow.
this thoroughly. I enjoy this thoroughly because to me it is like wow. Here is a here is a human being who's willing to give, and this is the most
Hmm.
uh, valuable kind of giving as far as I'm concerned. You can
Hmm.
give money, you can, but this is giving of your own self. Okay, this is how I think, this is the mind body that I
Hmm.
am. And so honestly to a stranger, I feel blessed about that. Now
Hmm.
my question to you is, in this process I have realized I get very inspired by uh, the story itself. Have
Hmm.
you been taught or have you formally learned any kind of meditation or process, or is it uh,
Hmm.
instinctive? What is it? What is it that works for you?
Hmm. I mean, there was like in the past sort of, I would say 10 years, there was a very sort of 4 years, 4 or 5 years where I was like exploring Vipassana,
Okay.
and um, I was very, very fascinated by what the Buddha sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
expounded, and so that phase was there. And during that time, I was also like um, very interested in yoga, and again the understandings of Vedanta, and so that period was there. Um, so during that time, yeah, there was a lot that I learned about meditation, like technically how to practice it, um, how to explore reality in that sense through that. Um, but then also, I feel like so that's something that definitely shaped me. But also before that, like when I was studying, I did my engineering. I did biotechnology, and I loved that period as well, because I used to be like I spent a lot of time in the lab, looking under the microscope, checking things, and exploring sort of the physical reality. And then there was also a period where I explored about nature and about soil, about trees, and with people, like with different teachers. And with them, again, there was an exploration of like, the physical reality on a larger scale. And then now I've been sort of studying and exploring about the body, health and disease. And so it's like through each of these things it's like there's so much that exploration that's possible at so many different levels.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's like everything that I've engaged with has shaped me, as well as in some ways I feel like I've also shaped
Contributed.
it along that journey. And so in some ways I feel like, yeah, now I think so far, like I thought that okay, this is it. And then I moved on to the next thing and I was like, this is it. And then I moved on to the next thing and I was like, this is it. And somewhere along the way now I'm like, nahi, I'm not falling for this again. Like, like abhi nahi, or matlab, I will enjoy and I will learn. But I think now I feel a little bit more less of this is it versus okay, it's a continuous, like
This is also
continue
it.
to learn. Ha, like yeah. So yeah, I guess it's a continuous journey, and
Yeah.
um, Yeah.
But okay, I'll specify the question from a different angle.
Okay.
Do you think it is important to learn through formal methods? It aids
Hmm.
your learning in these spaces because it gives you some
Yeah.
angle to hold on to, considering that this is a very quote unquote empty space.
Hmm.
It's not a defined space. Like your journey and my journey could run parallelly for births and not meet, and yet we are curious, we are learning. Like so many
Yeah.
things you said now, I instinctively feel them, but I've never learned them. And
Hmm.
today I'm looking back and I'm thinking I need to just chill a bit and allow life to teach. I feel very nice
Ah.
about listening to you. But as a formal learning, I have picked up Vipassana meditation, which is part of my everyday process, surely because it kind of gives me a handle on to okay, the life around me can be whatever, but this is a part
Hmm.
of my discipline and practice that holds on to a formalized way of looking at things till the time learnings happen. Learnings keep happening. Like there is
Yeah.
nothing that happens on the cushion which is it's not sacred. Because the problem that I face is that most people start thinking, oh, you are such a holy person. I'm not. I'm as bad or as good as anybody else. But neither am I the worst or
Hmm.
the best or any such thing. It is just a process that I'm trying to learn. Like today, you
Yeah.
said certain things that I'm thinking, oh, wish I saw it like that. I want to explore how that feels like. So it's as simple as that.
Hmm.
Or at least I let go of the preconceived notion of that I am like this. तो थोड़ा वो edges को blunt कर देते हैं और देखते हैं बाहर क्या जा रहा है अपने
Yeah.
बारे में. So yeah, that is where the question came from. Do you think the
Yeah.
formal thing helps, or is it necessary? Does
Hmm.
it help? You've done yoga also because yoga also I know a bit about Iyengar yoga. They are quite fastidious. If you don't practice, they throw you out.
Yeah.
So do
Yeah.
you think practice and discipline and formal learning is a good aid to have at least for a good amount of time? Like then you
Hmm.
can pick up your practice in your way that I
Yeah.
presume okay. बट एटलीस्ट इतना तो पता होना चाहिए कि ये अच्छा ये टेक्निक का ये है ये प्रॉब्लम आते हैं ये थोड़ा ये इनिशियल 2 महीना करके सब समझेगा ऐसा नहीं होने वाला.
Ah. I don't know. I mean, I found it quite like a struggle to have sort of, a formal kind of practice or a discipline sort of. Like it's ended up being more challenging than
Yeah.
the benefit that it could sort of give.
Okay.
So I've not been able to at least
But
stick
you said
with.
you stuck to it for 4 5 years and then yoga also you stuck to it and
Yeah, yeah, and it was
so
quite sort of, there was a lot of energy and a lot of, sort of lot of effort that I took during that time. And then after that, I kind of relieved myself of that effort, and I said, like, is it possible for me to do it, so to
without
say,
forcing.
naturally? Yeah, is it possible? And I have not found it to be, like, I will meditate, but I will not be able to say that, I meditated, I don't know, 3 times a week or once a day. I not been able to do that. So I kind of have been like,
Yeah.
let's yeah, see.
Okay. No, in fact, I wanted to know because you seem to have that sense of bearing and that connection with your suffering in a manner where uh, these are studied, that you observed them. It's not about
Hmm.
Deepa is this and Deepa is this and oh, this is not who I am. Not not in strict terms. You let it loose and you try to study it, trying to figure out
Hmm.
what is this whole system. Um, Having said that, obviously, there are a lot of people from different paths who reach the same goal uh,
Hmm.
with with ease, sometimes with difficulty. I think it stopped mattering for me also. I give myself space. There are bad days, there are good days. You sit, you try and come back, you try
Hmm.
and come back. To me, it's a coming home of sorts. Like it's my place to come and gather myself and see what's happening inside mind, body, observation, basically. I have run out of questions. As much as I have loved talking to you, it's been a fabulous, fabulous conversation. Good to know you. I have,
Yeah, likewise. I really loved all the questions, and I think that was what my curiosity was to have a conversation with you.
yeah,
So yeah,
I
I think
have
I
no
learned a
clue.
lot about myself also. So
True.
thank you for that.
Thank you for exploring this with me. I shall see you soon, hopefully. See you.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.